Hi, good evening. I am now living a hidden life as a hermit. I am off the grid and my internet connection is limited and unstable. So you will have to watch this pre-recorded sharing of my experiences of martial law. When President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. announced the declaration of martial law on September 23, 1972, I was an 18-year-old Redemptorist College seminarian in Cebu, studying at the University of San Carlos. I was a member of Lakas Diwa, a youth movement that espoused social democracy and Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence. Even when the movement was in disarray due to the mass arrest in Manila and various parts of the country, our group in Cebu decided to work secretly, organizing underground cells while linking up with the urban poor organizations. A year later, on September 21st, 1973, that was the first anniversary of martial law, I was arrested by elements of the 7th Constabulary Security Group. I was detained in 3 places: the Camp Serio Osmeña, the Lahog Detention Center, and Camp Lapu-Lapu Detention and Rehabilitation Center. This poem, which I later wrote, sums up what I and many others experienced under torture. And the title of this poem is Psalm 1081. From this dark and lonely cell, I cry out to you, Lord, hear my groaning. I don't know where I am. I don't know whether it's night or day. They punched and kicked and beat me until I passed out. They forced me to drink Tanduay rum so that I will get drunk. They put the barrel of a gun in my mouth and cocked it. I thought that was my end. My ribs seem to be broken. I cannot stand erect. My throat is sore. I cannot scream anymore. They told me that they will put the electric wires when they come back. I dread the sound of footsteps and the opening of the door. I prefer this darkness than face the glaring light. I can just imagine what they are going to do next. They say only I can end my suffering if I cooperate with them and sign the confession they manufactured and bear false witness against myself and those who oppose this diabolical regime. How much longer, O Lord, can I hold on? How much longer can I maintain my sanity? How long will they keep me in this limbo? Will I ever see again the sun? Will I ever see again the faces of those I love and serve? Or will they make me disappear forever? Lord, deliver me from these kidnappers and murderers who try to maintain peace and order, whose obsession is to defend national security, the security of this bloodthirsty and power-hungry dictator. I cry out now to you, subvert this evil regime. From this dark and lonely cell, I cry out to you, Lord, hear my prayer. Into your hands, O Lord, I commend my broken body and my wavering spirit. After 7 months, I was released and I finished my AB Philosophy studies in May 1975. I continued on to do my postulancy and novitiate, and after my profession as Redemptorist in 1977, I was sent to Davao City for my theological studies. We lived in the Redemptorist parish in Bahada and commuted to St. Francis Regional Major Seminary for our classes. During the first week after starting our classes, we saw a naked, lifeless body with gunshot wound along the diversion road on the way to the seminary. We found out later that the police and military executed suspected criminals and subversives, and this was called salvaging. It was in the diversion road that the lifeless bodies were usually thrown. 2 leaders of the GKK, the Gagmayng Kristohanong Katilingban, or the Basic Christian Community, were victims of salvaging, and Archbishop Antonio Mabutas came out with a pastoral letter condemning the killings. I was ordained in 1981, and after my pastoral initiation year in Tacloban, I was assigned to the Iligan Redemptorist Mission Team in 1982. The mission team was based in Iligan City, and it composed of Redemptorist priest brothers and lay missionaries. The team helped various parishes in Mindanao in forming and strengthening basic ecclesial communities through evangelization, the formation of lay leaders, and training of parish pastoral workers. Between 1982 to 1986, our team conducted parish missions in Jimenez, that is Misamis Occidental, in Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur, and Iligan City, and Arakan Valley, North Cotabato. In 1983, the mission team conducted a parish mission in Hinatuan, Surigao. And during this period, the NPAs were very active in the area. The military conducted counterinsurgency operations in the barrios. The military and the local government were antagonistic to the parish priest and the mission team. They spread word that we were communist. So the people were afraid to attend the mission activities. Because of the repressive situation and the climate of fear, we decided to make the liturgy the focal point for evangelizing, organizing, and mobilizing the BECs. We also introduced Bible reflection sessions to the communities, which were often monitored by the CHDF militias. During the mission, the parish priest, Father Frank Olbis, was arrested. We mobilized several truckloads of people from Hinatuan to Tandag and staged a march rally together with priests, religious, and other church people to protest the arrest of Father Olbis. Due to military harassment, there were concerns within the team about the effectiveness of the mission and the security of the members. So the mission coordinator and all the lay missioners decided to pull out. by September 1983, only Father Manny Cabahar and I remained to continue the mission. All that we could do was to gather the people in the barrio chapels and celebrated the Misa Pamalandong. This is a mass that could last for over 4 to 6 hours. We made it long, and that what made it long was that the liturgy of the word was stretched. We chose relevant readings that conveyed a particular theme. And usually after the gospel, instead of immediately giving a homily, the people who attended the mass were broken into small groups and given the chance to share their reflections on their experiences vis-a-vis the readings and the theme. And this was followed by group reporting. And the homily, which lasted for an hour, was the occasion to evangelize them and give them hope and courage. Before the liturgy of the Eucharist, we had the agape, where the people partook of the food that was cooked outside the chapel. Part of our evangelizing mission was to make people aware of their dignity and human rights. The liturgy became the venue for this. During the Iligan mission in 1984 to 85, the system of mass sponsoring was used during the Aguinaldo masses. And the general theme that we adopted was human dignity and human rights. Each day would focus on a specific rights mentioned in Pacem in Terris. This was the encyclical of Pope John the 23rd. And there were 9 themes. The first day, incarnation, the human dignity and human rights. And then the second day, the bodily rights. The third then, the communication rights. Fourth day, the religious rights. The fifth day, family and vocational rights. The sixth day, economic rights. The seventh day, associational rights. And the eighth day, the rights of movement. And the ninth day, political rights. This theme was adopted by all the churches and chapels within the parish in Iligan City. The sponsoring groups prepared the prayers, reflections, symbolic offerings. There's also drama or choreography. And the people attending the Misa Aguinaldo at the cathedral and the Redemptorist Church became acquainted with their rights. The BECs in their Novena Aguinaldo held in the chapels also adopted the human rights theme. At a time when resistance to the Marcos dictatorial regime had grown and the military became more repressive, the theme of human rights in the liturgy became appropriate and prophetic. This helped in raising the awareness of the people about their rights. It was not surprising, therefore, that the military would suspect the liturgy we celebrated as subversive. The military and the CHDF waged a black propaganda campaign against us. They told the people that we were working with the communists. 2 of our lay missionaries were picked up by the CHDF and interrogated. Later, a parish worker named Victoriano Pantoy Satanta, whom we trained and who was working with us during the mission, was assassinated. Pantoy was formerly a member of the CHDF and had quit from the CHDF and became actively involved in the local BEC as Kaabak, a lay liturgical leader. And later on, he became a parish worker. We had reason to believe that he was killed by the military and the CHDF, who had threatened him several times. The funeral of Pantoy turned into a protest march, attended by over 4,000 people from the mission areas, the BECs, carrying placards and streamers. His bicycle and bloodied white shirt were brought before the altar as symbolic offering during the funeral mass, which was presided by Bishop Capalla and celebrated by various diocesan priests and redemptorists. Pantoy was hailed as a BEC martyr, but his former CHDF companions regarded him as a traitor. We were shocked by Pantoy's brutal death. At that time, we had not recovered from the death of Victoria Hatage. Just several months before, Vicky, or Victoria, a parish worker of Jimenez, whom we trained during our mission there, was shot to death by the CHDF. A month before Pantoy's death, our Redemptorist confer, Father Rudy Romano, was picked up by military intelligence in Cebu. He has remained missing since then and presumed dead. All these events weigh heavily on us. In spite of the harassment, we continued our mission work. It was difficult to evangelize and organize the people because the military kept telling them that we were subversives. At the end of the Iligan mission, the horror of martial law finally hit home. On December 16, 1985, my mother was shot in the head. After over a month, my father told me that the men who killed my mother had been identified, and all of them were killed by the police during a shootout. They were all part of a gang composed of Philippine constabulary soldiers who were engaged in armed robbery. I was going through a crisis of faith and wondered if the time had come to leave the priesthood and join the armed struggle. I was just waiting for the result of the snap election. On February 25, 1986, Marcos was ousted through people power. I felt that it was a miraculous intervention. 50 years after the declaration of martial law, and 36 years after the ouster of the dictator, I feel a sense of sadness that the son of the dictator is now president after conducting a campaign of lies and disinformation and historical revisionism. The Marcos dictatorial period was never the golden era of the Philippines. I personally experienced and witnessed the horrors of the authoritarian rule. It was the worst of time. All that happened is still fresh in my memory. And all I can say now is never forget. Never again. Good evening and thank you for listening.